Welcome to the GeoInsight, where we unravel the complex world of global and geopolitical news that shapes our times. In today's episode, we dive deep into a dramatic confrontation playing out on American soil, a tense standoff between the federal government led by President Donald Trump and states led by Democratic governors. At the heart of this storm, deployments of the National Guard to cities like Chicago and Portland, protests, escalating clashes, and court battles that question the balance of power in the United States. Stay with us as we explore what's really going on: the legal fights, the political battles, the social unrest, and what it all means for the future of America. The saga begins amid growing unrest in several U.S. cities that have become flashpoints of protest and conflict related to immigration enforcement and alleged lawlessness. President Donald Trump, unwavering in his stance, has authorized the deployment of hundreds of National Guard members to control what he calls violent riots and protect federal agents and installations. Chicago, a city governed by Democrat Governor JB Pritzker, saw the latest deployment of 300 National Guard troops. The timing was chilling, just hours after a confrontation involving U.S. Border Patrol agents who fired defensive shots at an armed woman during protests against immigration enforcement in the Brighton Park neighborhood. According to the Department of Homeland Security, the woman, who rammed her car into federal vehicles, is now under FBI custody after recovering from her injuries. The incident escalated tensions in a city already simmering with demonstrations. Simultaneously, in Portland, Oregon, another Democratic stronghold, the Trump administration announced plans to deploy 200 National Guard troops to secure federal immigration offices amid ongoing protests. But the legal system intervened. On the 4th of October 2025, U.S. District Judge Karin Immergut, appointed by Trump himself, issued a temporary restraining order preventing the administration from deploying National Guard troops to Portland. The judge emphasized that the protests in Portland do not amount to a rebellion, nor have local law enforcement been unable to handle the situation. She criticized the administration's justification, describing Trump's characterization of Portland as war-ravaged, as disconnected from reality. Judge Immergut's ruling pointed to a deeper constitutional question: whether the president has the authority to federalize state National Guard troops without the consent of the state, potentially trampling on state sovereignty guaranteed by the 10th Amendment. She warned the blurred lines between civil and military authority risked harming the nation's constitutional framework, stressing that military intervention in domestic law enforcement could escalate tensions rather than resolve them. This temporary order lasts until at least October 18, providing a pause during which Oregon and Portland's legal teams argue against the president's maneuvering, claiming it's an overreach and unconstitutional. Meanwhile, in Illinois, Governor JB Pritzker condemned the federal move as an outrageous and un-American demand. The governor said the Trump administration issued what's being called a hard ultimatum: either Pritzker calls up the troops, or the federal government would do so anyway. This demand sparks a fierce debate over federalism and states' rights, a recurring theme in American history. While the president argues the deployments are to protect federal personnel and property in cities he accuses of chaos and lawlessness, local officials portray the move as a manufactured crisis to score political points. Governor Pritzker stresses that Chicago is capable of managing public safety without federal military involvement, calling the deployment a political stunt that undermines local authority and trust. This tension reflects a broader national divide, where cities with Democratic leadership clash head-on with a Republican federal administration, emblematic of wider political polarization gripping the United States. The backdrop of these federal deployments is a wave of protests that have swept cities like Chicago and Portland. Demonstrators rally against aggressive immigration enforcement, use of force by agencies like Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, and general concerns about civil rights erosion. In Chicago, confrontations have escalated, notably with protests blocking immigration and customs enforcement vehicles and U.S. Border Patrol agents deploying pepper spray and rubber bullets for crowd control. In Portland, the demonstrations have been largely peaceful, but persistent, focusing on the federal government's policy approach to immigration and policing. These protests have sparked national conversations on the right to protest, government overreach, and the militarization of law enforcement. Activists argue the presence of armed federal troops inflames tensions, while supporters of strong federal action claim these measures are necessary to maintain order and protect federal workers. Amidst this volatile environment, residents express mixed feelings. Some call for peace and dialogue, while others feel caught in the crossfire of a nation sharply divided. What does this internal conflict mean for the U.S. on the world stage? The standoff highlights vulnerabilities within the nation's governance and raises questions about the handling of domestic crises. From a geopolitical lens, persistent unrest in major U.S. cities and contentious federal interventions feed narratives promoted by rival countries about instability in the world's leading democracy. Moreover, the legal challenge regarding troop deployments touches on federalism, a foundational element of American democracy, which balances powers between federal and state governments. How this case resolves could set precedents affecting domestic governance and civil liberties for years to come. International observers note that rising political polarization, coupled with urban unrest and federal responses, signal challenges for U.S. domestic unity and governance credibility. Simultaneously, the use of military and paramilitary forces within U.S. borders in such a contentious manner remains a rare and striking phenomenon in American history. As these legal battles unfold and political tensions rise, one thing is clear: America is at a crossroads. How this fight over National Guard deployments and state rights will unfold remains to be seen. It is a test not only of the law, but of the very fabric of American democracy. Thank you for joining the GeoInsight in this deep dive into a pivotal moment shaping the United States today. If you found this video insightful, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more in-depth global and geopolitical news analysis. Stay informed, stay alert, and until next time, this is the GeoInsight.